Hello, all. You have now been pulled into the Black Dimension. I am your host, the Roger Report, and today we're going to do part three of the NBA greatest 75 greatest players of all time. Okay, we've I've been looking at things. We've done the top 20 already. Today is going to be the third installment, so we're going to deal with the NBA's list. Now, the NBA's list was created by the NBA. They put 75 players in alphabetical order, but they did not rank these 75 players. Now, they have their reasons for not ranking the 75 players. I believe it has something to do with egos and things like that. They not want to cause too much fuss, too much muss around former players and things like that. So I totally understand why the NBA is not ranking the player, but that don't mean the fans can't rank the players. Okay, so fans of the NBA, we definitely can have our arguments and we definitely can rank these players. And I am ranking these players. You know what I'm looking at, what they've been able to do in their career, what their accomplishments they have been able to make. They're great players, so we got to keep in mind that we're gonna have to nitpick here and there. We got to nitpick here and there because hey, that's just what it goes. It's great players. All of them are good. We know that already. All of them are great. We know that already. So we're gonna do a little bit of nitpicking. And right now we're gonna take the top 30 now. Let's give a quick a quick statement of the players that we have ranked so far. All right. Now this came from the first 20 players on this list, on the NBA's list, I should say. It's the NBA's list. Okay. So it's the first 20 players, but they were in alphabetical order, and these players have been ranked, and they're ranked so far. The top player right now, okay, in alphabetical order. It started, but now they're out of alphabetical order because of the rankings. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is holding that number one spot down right now. Kobe Bryant is right behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which is a great accomplishment for the Black Mamba. Okay, following up Kobe is Wilt Chamberlain. All right, we got Larry Bird right after him. We got Giannis Antetokounmpo after that. We got Elgin Baylor, followed by Rick Barry, Charles Barkley, the great Bob Cousy, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Paul Arizin. We got Dave the Butcher, so that's the top tier at this particular point. And being followed up by those gentlemen, we have Nate Archibald, Clyde Drexler, Dave Bing, Dave Cowens, Billy Cunningham, Carmelo Anthony, and Ray Allen so far. So those are the second tier for right now. Now we're gonna, compare stats, the eye test and accomplishment to continue to rank players. Okay. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has been one of the greats the whole time. Okay. And we're gonna look at some other folks, y'all. So to the first player we're gonna look at inserting into the list that we have so far is the great Tim Duncan. All right. Now, Tim Duncan was a rookie of the year, five-time NBA champion. Believe it or not, he has three finals MVPs. He also has two MVPs. He's a 10-time All NBA player, an 8-time All Defensive player, and five All-Star game appearances. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna double check this right now because that don't look right to me. That don't look right. Let me make sure. I think I've made one mistake when I went out to get the facts and figures, and we wanna be accurate where possible. So that just don't seem right to me. All right, and I'm pretty sure that's a mistake. So just give me one moment here. We're gonna go to the Wikipedia of Tim Duncan. Okay, I see what it was. I put 5 instead of 15. He's a 15-time All-Star. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. if you've watched Tim Duncan play. That makes a lot more sense. So he is a 15-time All-Star. All right. Now, Tim Duncan, spectacular career. All right. Now, at the top of this list, we have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we got Kobe Bryant, and Wilt Chamberlain as the top three. Tim Duncan's career was so good that I do believe that, I could compare him to the top so far. So I'm going to actually have to look at his career and start off with comparing him to the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. All right. And see what is it that we have. What's the best? What's the best that we have so far? Okay. Now, I do have stats for all. I have the information for all the players that we've dealt with so far, but Tim really did a great job. Okay, Tim has really done a great job. So let's take a quick look and see what Mr. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has done. Now, we all know he had a long career. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has the most points in NBA history. Now, Kareem was also a rookie of the year. Okay. He's a two-time finals MVP. Well, Tim has 3 finals MVP, so he has a slight edge on him right there. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a 6-time MVP. Okay. 6-time NBA MVP. And as great a career as Tim Duncan has, he only has 2. Okay, so he has the edge right there. All right. Now, if we look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he's been all NBA 15 times. Okay. 15 times he's been all NBA. Now, that is absolutely spectacular for somebody to be all NBA 15 times. Okay. Now, Tim Duncan, also heck of a career, 10 times all NBA. All right. Now, Tim Duncan was an 8-time all defensive player, okay, which is quite a feat as well. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was actually an 11-time all defensive player with 19 All-Star appearances to Tim Duncan's 15 All-Star appearances. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, in my opinion, definitely holds up against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar holds up against Tim Duncan. Okay, both incredible careers. Now, right behind Abdul-Jabbar is the great Kobe Bryant. Okay, all right. Now, which is I know that may be a little surprising for people because people say, Kobe Bryant is the greatest Laker. Well, it looks like Kareem. Well, no, I can't. I'm not gonna say because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did not start his career with Los Angeles, so Kobe probably is the greatest Laker, but he actually follows up Kareem as far as career is concerned. Now, Kobe Bryant has 5 rings just like Tim Duncan. All right. And I know this is where, can get a little tricky but based on who likes who. Okay, who likes who. Now, Tim Duncan has 3 finals MVPs, y'all. All right. Now, Kobe Bryant, of course, has done great when it comes to finals MVP. When it comes to finals MVPs, but he has 2 finals MVPs. Tim Duncan's 3 finals MVPs. And now they both got 5 rings. Now, keep in mind, Shaq won MVPs 3 times when Kobe won championships. So it just is what it is. Now, Kobe Bryant has been an MVP of the NBA only one time, while Tim Duncan has been the MVP of the NBA twice. Now, when it comes to all NBA and all defensive, well, Tim is 10 all NBA, 8 all defensive players. Okay. So he was 10 and 8 right there. And the great Kobe Bryant, he was 11 times all NBA, 9 times all defensive. So he edges Tim out right there. He has 15 All-Star appearances. Excuse me. Kobe has 18 All-Star appearances with Tim's 15 All-Star appearances. So this really is extremely close. This really is extremely close. Now, the thing is, Kobe Bryant, 2 Finals MVPs versus Tim Duncan's 3 Finals MVPs. They both got 5 rings. Okay? They both got 5 rings. Now, I'm looking at this, and I know Kobe is always in a discussion about the greatest basketball player ever. You know, most folks will not bring up a discussion and discuss it too long without mentioning Kobe Bryant's name. I know LeBron James tries to create a situation where he can jump over Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan. But looking at what they've done, it may not be popular. But I do believe because of what Tim Duncan has accomplished, he should get the edge over Kobe Bryant. Now, Kobe had a longer career, he had a longer career than Tim Duncan. 3 more All-Star appearances than Tim Duncan had. But Tim has 1 more Finals MVP than he had, and 1 MVP of the league than Kobe Bryant has. Okay. Now, nowhere are either of these dudes, or can we say either of these dudes weren't spectacular? Okay. Tim Duncan, 10-time All NBA, while Kobe Bryant's an 11-time All NBA. Tim Duncan, 8-time All Defensive. Kobe Bryant, 9-time All Defensive. So Kobe has 1 more All NBA, 1 more Defensive, while Tim Duncan has 1 more Finals MVP than Kobe and 1 more MVP than Kobe. Now, Kobe has 3 All-Star appearances, more than Tim Duncan has. So to me, they're extremely close. Technically, you can go either way. To me, it's about what do you value the most in this particular situation. Now, I'm a person, I value winning. I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. I value winning. So because I value winning, there's Black Rule Strikes in the building. Taking Duncan over Kobe, although I might. All right, this is a statement by Black Guru, and I think Black Guru is leaning toward the way I'm leaning. He says taking Duncan over Kobe, although I would take Bird and maybe Wilt over Kobe. To me, it's a toss-up between Bird and Duncan for second place after Kareem. Woo! Well, you know what, Black Guru? I am so sorry that you missed the last time we did this. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to give notice. It was too much going on. I apologize to you, brother, because I wanted you to be able to participate. I really did, but I had to do it by myself, And once the choices I made. But I'm actually with you on this. I'm gonna give the as unpopular as it may be when people may see this in the future, unpopular as it may be with NBA fans out there. I value the Finals MVP more than he has 1 more Finals MVP and he has 1 more NBA MVP, and I'm gonna have to take that over Kobe's 1 more All NBA and 1 more All Defensive Player than he has over Tim Duncan. Okay, and Black Guru says Tim Duncan is a Ray Allen 3 away from me. Tim Duncan is a Ray Allen 3 away from being 6-0 in the finals like MJ. That is true. And I've always kind of stuck up for Tim Duncan because people argue about Kobe being the second best player all the time. And my thing is, it's actually kind of unfair that Tim Duncan's name is not brought up that much. Now, of course, Black Guru, if you'd like to join the stream, there's an invite out to you. The link is in the description. And to those who are listening, you can only join a stream if the host on the Black Dimension. We can only invite people to the streams that the host is already familiar with. So me being the host today, I have to already be familiar with you. All right. So I do believe the proper thing to do is give the edge to Tim Duncan. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give that edge to the great Tim Duncan. What's going on, Black Rule? How you doing, brother?
Hey, how you doing, brother? I'm driving around a little bit, so I may bounce in and out, So hopefully you can hear me clearly. And
just fine.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not trying to change the order that because I missed the second session, which I regret. I think I was on an epic BGS live the day that although I didn't know, somehow I didn't get the notice or whatever, because I would have switched over had I known you were going there. And I only discovered that you had a second stream after you were already done. So, but like I say, I think Kobe was a great player, but sometimes I think Kobe's a little bit overrated. I think in large part because of his style of play and because he was so similar to MJ in terms of his style of play. And he was a great player. I'm not taking anything away from him. But, I saw Larry Bird play. And let me tell you, Larry Bird was a good back away from being in the GOAT discussion. I mean, really. Larry Bird broke his back like in his third or fourth year in the league. This guy was winning championships and was winning MVPs and finals MVPs with a broken back. And as great as Kobe, see, I know you didn't really see these guys play as, the older guys. And, you're kind of going through, however, all-star games or whatever. And that's relevant. But I always, when I judge who was the greatest player, I don't just judge whether, how many all-star or whatever. I judge that player in the context of the time he played, and I also judge who was the foundational player, whether he was the foundational player of a championship squad. And Larry Bird was without a question was the foundational player for a multiple championship team. And the only reason he didn't have more rings was because he was going up against Magic and Kareem. That's the only reason he doesn't have 5 rings instead of 3. So when I look at Larry Bird, and Larry Bird, he was an amazing basketball player, amazing, no great athleticism at all. But he just always seemed to make the right plays, be in the right position, get the right rebound. He was a wonderful playmaking forward. People give LeBron James a lot of credit. I think that Larry Bird is the greatest small forward to ever play basketball, including and over LeBron James. I know you haven't gotten to LeBron James yet, I guess, or whatever. But I just... Larry Bird was a remarkable basketball player. Remarkable basketball. And I know, there's a racial element of it too, but I except for Michael Jordan, he was the best player I ever saw play in his prime.
Well, that's kind of the reason that I like for some of the older folks to participate in this, because I do count the eye test. You know what I'm saying? And what you were able to see does actually matter to
the guy. Averaged 24 points. He averaged 10 rebounds for his career, 6 assists for his career. He was a remarkable basketball player. And he wasn't a great one-on-one defender, but you never really saw him get scorched very much defensively. And he just was people say that Steph Curry is I think Larry Bird is the greatest shooter I ever saw. And when I say shooter, I'm not talking about whether you can shoot the ball from 40. I'm talking about when it counted, when you needed the most. There was no better shooter than Larry Bird.
Well, if I got
that I ever saw. In terms of like when it's time to win a game. When you talk about like the most money, you got MJ, you got Bird. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going away, but like I said, I would definitely have Bird after. I would have Bird or Duncan after Kareem. So since you're not going to change your list, I would rate Duncan after Kareem.
Well, that's the yeah, that's exactly where I put him because I mean what you say does hold weight. It was, and I wish you'd have been here to say it the last time I did it. But hey, that's how life goes sometimes, and what you see is what you get sometimes. So
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. But I do say that the eye test does matter. But when you don't see players play, you can only go off the information that you have. So and that's why I kind of understand even younger folks who because I know people who they would put their life on the line that LeBron James was the best player of all time, even though we ain't got to it yet. But I get it because they only know what they saw.
Well, there sometimes the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts, and sometimes the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. I would say LeBron James is where he can do a lot of different things, but the summation of them isn't necessarily as equal to adding up all his parts together. Larry Bird was the opposite of that. Wasn't particularly fast, obviously couldn't jump, wasn't particularly super strong or athletic, but there was something about the combination of his skill and maybe his mind, I guess, that made him better than what you would think he would be. Because like how was he able to, in a league of black guys, let's put it that way, who could out-jump him, could run faster than him, jump higher, whatever. How can he continually beat those guys for 12 years? Continually beat those guys.
And I didn't know he hurt his back that early in his career. I thought it was much later in his career that he hurt his back. Now, I did see some of Larry Bird play, but I was extremely young at the time, so not really. You know what I'm saying? Because he was basically calling it quits when I was starting to pay attention to the NBA.
Yeah, that around that time when you really probably got to see him play, the back thing was just too much. Because if you probably saw him play, games where he would be lying on the floor because he couldn't sit. So this is a guy, he couldn't even sit in a chair, when he wasn't on the court. He had to lie on the, with his back flat to keep from his back stiffening up. And he'd be probably have 30 plus points in that game. He was a remarkable player.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. That's when I saw Larry. Larry was already laying on the ground, between plays. Well, between coming in and out the game. By the time I saw him, so I only saw the back part of his career. I saw him go with the Dream Team and all that. But at that point, it was over with for him. So, I wish I'd have known he hurt his back a little bit early in his career, and I do know that messed with him. And Lord knows what would he have been had he never hurt his actual.
And it's so weird how he hurt his back. He hurt his back. I think he was redoing his mother's driveway. Moving rock or some crazy shit like that. I mean, something he could have easily have paid some dude to do, but he was, old country boy from Indiana type of thing, and I'll do it myself. And I'm sure he and Boston and everybody wish he had just paid some guy to do his mother's driveway.
I'm pretty sure, and I've heard the story. And I'm just gonna say everybody don't spend all their money. Sometimes they just rather do it themselves.
I mean, let me tell you, if Larry Bird was healthy, hey, I'm the biggest MJ fan ever. But if Larry Bird had been healthy, and if Len Bias hadn't died, I don't think the Bulls have 6 championships, bro. I don't think so. As great as MJ is, as great as Scotty was, Larry Bird, a healthy Larry Bird and Len Bias, woo! And then Reggie Lewis came later, woo! That would have been something. That would have been something.
Well, yeah, but Reggie Lewis, we don't know where he'd have landed had you had a healthy Larry Bird, because things change. One person does something, a lot of things change in the NBA. That's just the way the cookie.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, you don't know how the combinations of things and who get drafted. Kind of like people say, well, Portland could have had Clyde Drexler and Michael Jordan.
Yeah, they could have. They actually
but the flip side of that is that, and then again, it would have had to have happened this way. The Bulls could have had Clyde Drexler and Michael Jordan. Because the year before, the Bulls drafted Enos Watley over Clyde Drexler.
Oh, wow.
So it's really interesting. It's really interesting. And then Houston could have had Michael Jordan if the Rockets owners were sane, or the management were sane, because the Bulls tried to trade MJ for Ralph Sampson, but Houston didn't want to do it.
Yeah, and I have heard about that a couple times, and it's because it is strange. So many things affect so many other things. Because you think about it, if we'd have got Clyde Drexler, would we ever got Jordan?
Yeah, we probably would not have. Yeah, probably would not have. Yeah, which Clyde would have been a great player, but he wouldn't have been.
I like
MJ.
Six rings. As a Chicago fan, I like these 6 rings.
Yeah.
If I had to give
it's really interesting how the dominoes fall, so to speak, in NBA history. Larry Bird was a great player. But yeah, I would, based on the setup you have now, I'm rating Tim Duncan over Kobe. And Kobe was a great player, but and again, like I said earlier, to me, I view it not just how many championships you have, or how many All-Stars or All-NBAs. My question is, were you the foundational player of a championship squad? And Tim Duncan was, without a doubt, the foundational player on a team that won 5 out of 6 championships. You just, Kobe was great, but Kobe had Shaq.
No, I get exactly.
And David Robinson was great, but he was pretty much on his way out by the time Tim Duncan got there, because he only played 2 or 3 years after after Duncan got there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm with you, which is why I value that Finals MVP. Because, to me, it says you did a lot of work to get your team in the playoffs. You got through the playoffs. You actually got to the championships. You won, and you were a major factor in your team winning the title. So that's why I really value those Finals MVPs, which is kind of why I shift toward Tim Duncan, because he got 3 to Kobe's. Kobe only has 2. And then even as far as the league is concerned, Kobe only got 1 MVP, but Tim actually has 2. That's kind of controversial, because they gave freaking what's his name, the guy who was in Phoenix 2 straight MVPs. Nash,
and he had some fairly mediocre statistics even then, and that team did not ever win a championship. So that, I think he got the persuasion for the Caucasian for the persuasion type thing. On that deal.
I get what you're saying. If I was in control of the MVP system in the NBA, would be done totally different, which I'm not going to say right now, because I may actually go back and use my own system to determine who was the real MVP for each year in the NBA. But,
Shaq, what's his name? Steve Nash has 2 MVPs and Shaq has only 1. And everybody know there was about a 5-year period where Shaq was just the most dominant player, arguably, as dominant as any player who's ever played basketball for about a 4 or 5 year period, where he was unguardable.
Outside of Wilt, there's no real discussion about domination.
Yeah, he obliterated the league. And he only has 1 MVP, so that's kind of hinky. But then you could even make I'm sure the LeBron James fans will argue he should have more than 4. Certainly us Jordan fans would say he should have more than 5. Especially, I'll give Barkley not MVP, but having Karl Malone, that 97 MVP. Fuck no.
Yeah, and then and there's a lot of domino effects that affects itself. But when you have voting, you're always gonna have some flaw of the system because there's always bias. I don't pretend that there's no bias. I have my biases, and some people have even told me that I might be biased against Kobe Bryant because I would put Tim Duncan before him because I don't want to see Kobe be as great as Mike. People have even told me that, so I get it. But I just think Tim is just more valuable.
You can't put Kobe over Mike because what has Kobe done greater than Mike?
Well, they said because I like Mike so much, I don't want to see Kobe be up there with Mike, which is why I put Tim Duncan in between them. But I think
there is nobody up there with Mike.
Well, I don't agree. I don't agree. All right, let's get on to who is next in line, and that would be an active player right now, still an active player. So over time he may create a better position for himself, and that's Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant actually has some pretty good numbers. Okay, and I didn't say what Tim Duncan's numbers were, but Tim Duncan, he did average 19 points a game, 10.8 rebounds, 3 assists a game, 2.2 blocks a game, and 0.7 steals a game. So that was pretty good for Tim Duncan. Now Kevin Durant, he's averaging 27.1 a game, 7.1 rebounds a game, 4.2 assists. He has 1.1 blocks and 1.1 steals. So he's having a heck of a career so far. He has a Rookie of the Year. He's a 2-time Finals MVP already. He has an MVP. He's a 6-time All-NBA player and a 12-time All-Star. Okay, so that's pretty neat. I say that's pretty neat. So when looking at who we have on the list so far, now of course that Kareem, Tim Duncan, Kobe, I don't think is much worthy of a discussion at all.
Yeah. Let me actually not looking at my phone right now, so let me look at the list here again to see where I can.
Yeah.
I would Kevin Durant.
Ooh, okay. Well, you know what? That might be toward like a Giannis, because Giannis has done some things, but I think that's.
I'm not putting Kevin Durant over Giannis. Giannis is, in my view, more accomplished than Kevin Durant is. And again, I'll go back to foundational. Who's the foundational player of the championship? Not just whether or not you won a championship or X number of championships. Yeah, I know KD has 2 championships and Giannis only won 1. But I rate Giannis's 1 championship over KD's 2. Giannis was the clear and definitive foundational player of a championship, of building a championship franchise. KD went to a championship team and just made it better. So I would not, and Giannis has won 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards and I think 2 MVPs. I don't think there's any question that Giannis. Now, is KD more skilled in some ways, particularly as being able to shoot? In fact, the only thing I would say that KD can do better than Giannis is shoot. I would say in all other aspects of the game, defense, blocking, rebounding, probably even playmaking, Giannis is a better player. It's not even the question.
Well, you know what? The numbers are definitely saying that. I'm looking at 4 All-NBA plus the 4 All-Defensive teams that Giannis has.
And he's younger. He's like about 5 years younger too. So he'll be great for a longer period. It's not a question to me that Giannis is a greater player than KD. Not a question. Giannis will be, if the trend hold up and whatever. I won't say he would make the GOAT discussion, but I definitely think he'll definitely be in the top. Well, I would say second tier because really it's only the top tier is MJ in my view, but Giannis will definitely be in that second tier of all-time greats before it's over.
You get a few more rings, then he, you never know where it's gonna be. But and I'm just trying to look at it and be fair. So that means
I would put KD maybe over Elgin Baylor, and you know how I feel about Elgin Baylor. Like I said, I got to put an asterisk next to Elgin Baylor because I know he never won a championship, hell, but he lost like 8 championships against Bill Russell. He was, so, But so yeah, maybe I would put him over Elgin Baylor. Maybe.
Elgin has 10 all NBAs. He's an 11-time All-Star, and he was a Rookie of the Year. But when you start comparing that to the things that Durant has already gotten done, because Durant, Rookie of the Year, 2 Finals MVP, 1 MVP, he already has 6. He's already a 6-time All NBA, and he already has 12 All-Stars. So I think that's actually fair. I know Elgin your boy. Elgin your boy, but I think that's actually fair at this point.
Look, the stats are the stats, and that's well and good. Do I think if they were born today, or if they were both born, how old is Durant? 30, probably 31 or 32. Yeah. If they were both born in 1990, was it? I guess that would be 1990. They would have been both born.
Yeah,
32, somewhere around there. Elgin, in my view, is a greater player. Because, and again, I don't just look at the alls. I look at where is your place in history, right? What did you do? What did you uniquely add to the game? What was particularly special about you? What did you do that was not being done before you got there? And you don't have modern basketball. Before Elgin Baylor, basketball was that game you saw with the grainy film with those white dudes shooting in baskets. That was largely basketball before Elgin Baylor. So that's why I say I can accept the whole notion of the who got X number of rings and whatever. That's fine, well and good. But you're not going to tell me that just in a pure basketball sense that Kevin Durant is a greater player than Elgin Baylor. I don't think that's true. But I will, for the purposes of what you're doing here, I'll give KD the nod over Elgin. I'll give him the nod over Elgin.
The man is getting something done.
No, I'm saying he's getting some. I think he's. But see, look, I'm always gonna have an issue with him going to Golden State. I think, along with what LeBron did, a few years prior to that, I think they really hurt professional basketball by doing that. I think they lessened the quality of the sport by doing that. And I think there should be some penalty for that in some way. Like I said, I'm not saying necessarily that affects what we're talking about here, but man, okay, so Michael Jordan say, fine, well, I'm gonna come on, Magic, come on, Karl Malone, let's get together and just wipe out the league. That's effectively what these guys did.
I think everything's fair. At the end of the day, it's always going to be subjective. So everything's fair as far as what you decide to use to measure in things. So, you know what I'm saying? So, and I didn't quite like that move myself. I like the fact that, players having some level of control and things like that. But then there's certain things about the NBA that I don't quite like because I don't like.
Look, if you want to control how much money, if the players want to control how much money they get to some degree, obviously the market will ultimately dictate just how much control you can have over that. I'm good with that. but it's a league of what, 30 teams. You don't have a sport if only 2 or 3 teams will ever have a shot to win a championship. And those 2 or 3 teams just happen to be in the most popular and populated cities in the country. That you don't maintain a sport by doing that.
No, I mean, I agree with you. That's why myself personally, I don't like the luxury tax. I think there should just be a hard salary cap, and that's it. And every team just got to deal with it. So your population does not control where your championships come from. But that's just me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. I'm not.
Well, that's what I guess that's why football, they maintain the hard cap. I mean, football's got other issues we can talk about later now, but yeah, at least that compels it just compels that you have there be more of a genuine opportunity amongst all the teams to compete. Because now, this whole, and then now LeBron's got to get this guy, and then he's got to get that guy, and now he's got to trade this guy. He's got to trade the whole damn team to get this guy. I mean, that's not competition to me. That's not even manly kind of competition to me. Well, that's something else.
It changes how what we subjectively draw into how we make our conclusion. It all changes that. But we only got power of what we got power over. But you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, history erases information like that. So that's the one thing about history. You only know so much, So like even this 75 greatest player list, you can't have you're not gonna have a wonderful pure list because who been watching the NBA for 75 years? There's a lot to talk about. Yeah. All the year the people.
Oh yeah, I mean it is subjective.
Yeah.
It is subjective, and I'm looking at like Steph Curry, for example, and Bob Cousy. That's interesting.
Well, it was based on what I've seen, what they've been able to accomplish.
Right. Well, and again, Bob Cousy won what? 5 titles.
Let me see. Cousy has won 6. Yeah, he got 6.
Yeah. See, yeah, but those were really Bill Russell's titles, because Cousy was in the league 5 or 6 years before Bill Russell got there. So it's kind of like, did you steer the Bill Russell built the ship and then steered the ship, and Cousy kind of was first mate or whatever, but yeah. All right, like I say, I think Steph Curry has a lot of holes in his game. I don't really think he's much of an actual point guard. I think he is obviously limited defensively, but again, I'll say what I said before about Larry Bird, but not obviously to the same degree, and that is, sometimes the whole of what you do is greater than the sum of your individual parts. And I would classify Steph Curry because of what he can do. It so radically changes how you can staff and run a team. So even though he's not a great defender, even though he's not really a great playmaker, but because of the extreme way when he's been kind of struggling this year, but through most of his career, because of the extraordinary shooting ability. I mean, where there's almost no way in the modern NBA, under current rules, there's almost no way to really defend him. His effect on the game is just so great.
His impact is ridiculous.
The impact, so it doesn't really matter that he's not a great defender, or it doesn't really matter as much that he's not a great playmaker, because what he can do just makes things so much easier for other players. But, again, I'm not trying to change your list, just kind of observing some of the order.
Life,
Please
life ain't
go on to the next name. I'm sorry.
life ain't fair, Black. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Life ain't fair. All right, we got the great Dr. J Julius Irving. Okay,
Okay. Well, now I'm getting really nostalgic.
now
I mean, that was my favorite basketball player as a kid. So that's gonna be. I can't really even.
I knew
I
this was
can.
gonna be
I
tough.
cannot object to.
What
I
Dr.
can't.
J is gonna be a tough thing
Yeah.
to position. Period, just because of
Yeah.
who he is.
Yeah.
And then he gave a certain amount of his career to the ABA,
Yeah.
which is not considered the NBA. So
Well, no, technically the ABA was grandfathered into the NBA. So like all those statistics, all those points, those all count in the
okay.
in the ledger of the NBA. When they assumed essentially ownership, or when they merged, those, although they reference them as ABA stats or whatever, those are official NBA statistics. They are
Okay.
officially NBA statistics.
All right. Dr. J's statistic looks pretty good. 22 points a game, 6.7 rebounds a game, 3.9 assists a game, 1.5 um blocks a game, and 1.8 steals a game. So pretty good. He has one MVP, one ring, but he was a 5-time All NBA player and an 11-time All Star.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I would probably put Dr. J between, if I was being objective, I probably would put him between Elgin and Rick Barry, probably.
Elgin and Rick Barry, okay.
But
So
between Elgin and Rick Barry, or after Elgin, probably.
okay, well, let's take a quick excuse me. I don't know why I can't talk right now. But okay, let's take a quick look. Elgin Baylor, he was a rookie of the year, 10-time All NBA player, 11-time All Star. Average 27.4, 13.5 rebounds, 4.3 assists. No recorded blocks or steals. That was timing. Rick Barry, 23.2 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, 5.1 assists, 2 steals a game, 0.5 blocks a game. But was a rookie of the year, a Finals MVP, a 5-time All NBA player, and an 8-time All Star. So
Yeah, there was a time in the league where Dr. J and Rick Barry, probably in the 70s, were probably the two best forwards in basketball, or at least I guess two best small forwards. So yeah, about two best forwards in basketball. Yeah, I give Dr. J a slight edge over Rick Barry and put him under or behind Elgin Baylor. Dr. J was a great player, great ambassador of basketball. He was, although I guess Moses was the MVP of that championship, but that was very much Dr. J's team. He had led the Sixers to 3 finals, 2 against the Lakers, and he was going against Magic and Kareem. So he was just kind of outmatched in that regard. So yeah, I agree Dr. J over Rick Barry, and like I say, behind Elgin Baylor. In fact, I was talking before about who where the style or whatever. I mean, Dr. J himself would say that he grew up modeling his game after Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor would be like his goat, and that's why that also kind of affects my view of these guys as well, because when an all-time great says that this is the guy that I emulated and I tried to be like, that influences my view as well. Now, Magic would say, well, I grew up trying to emulate Dr. J, so, and of course, Kobe tried to emulate MJ. Jordan would say, I grew up, emulating Dr. J, so, I kind of, in addition to the stats and who won championships and whatever, what is your influence on the game? Dr. J had a profound influence on basketball. Like I said, I mean, he probably was Elgin Baylor 2.0 in the sense of that, you know, affecting the way the game is played, you know, especially the, you know, above the rim. I mean, even just the excitement level of basketball. I mean, there were other great sort of high flying type players too during that time, but none of them achieved the level of almost mythical status. I mean, Dr. J had a mythical. When you grew up, you know, everything from like the Chuck Taylors and the Afro. He was a legendary figure, you know, a very impactful to the game, very much so.
And this is why I say everything will always be subjective, even though I do believe this would be the best list ever put together of 75 greatest players. But you know, you lose a lot through history because you know you don't when you only have numbers, you didn't see them play, you don't understand the context of the play, you don't understand the context of who got what and who they got it over. You know, all that makes a huge difference when it comes.
I mean, because you could say, well, Dr. J lost 3 championships, right? And you can say, well, somebody else won 3 championships.
Yeah.
Okay, but see, I saw those championships. I saw him going against fucking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. That's you know, in my view, sometimes some losses are equal to some victories. And when you're going against Magic and Kareem was still in his prime. Magic was blossoming came into the league, had just won a championship in college, came right out of college and won a championship in the NBA. You know, that's a loss. You know, losing against, let's say, Robert Quarry isn't the same as losing against Muhammad Ali in a fight. You know, those are not, you know, a close fight with Robert Quarry is not the same as a close fight, you know, close loss to Muhammad Ali. You know, so I kind of look at it that way too, to some degree. I mean, and again, I remember because I was such a Dr. J fan, and I remember just being heartbroken when they lost those championships to the Lakers. Just fucking broke my heart, man. I was in college in '82. Well, I remember the '80 championships well, but the '82, it was something because they were supposed to get that one. And they fucking couldn't do it. And I just remember it killed me. But it was Kareem and Magic.
Well, I mean, as much as Kareem and Magic have done, you know, as a person who didn't see it, to me that's understandable. You know, when you run up to those guys, that's just understandable. You know, I don't really, I can't stain your career because you lost to Kareem and you lost to Magic Johnson. Because you know, even though I didn't see it growing up as much, to me, with what they had, I don't know how you beat the Lakers. You know, once Kareem was on the team, man, you had Magic Johnson. I have no idea how you beat the Lakers at that particular point. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Philly would have had a chance against the Lakers if God rest his soul, if Daryl Dawkins had a brain. Daryl Dawkins was this incredibly powerful athlete who had no actual professional basketball sensibility. Daryl Dawkins should have been an all-time great player. He was powerful, he was athletic, he had the incredible leaping ability, just phenomenal physical specimen for that time. I mean, obviously, you know, the physicality of athletes has evolved over the years, but for his time, there was nobody with his physicality in the NBA. And Kareem owned his ass. Owned him. Punked him in both of those championships. But
That does say a lot.
when Moses came to town, somebody who knew how to play, Moses owned Kareem.
So he didn't take basketball serious enough. Is that what it was?
I think I would say he didn't go to college, but shit, Moses didn't go to college either. I don't know enough about. I don't really know anything about his history in terms of, prior to the NBA. Because like I say, he didn't play in college, so I didn't get a chance to see any sort of his development. But he just didn't. He was all athleticism. He was all, I can jump over or dunk over. I mean, he was the first guy you saw that was breaking backboards. He was the first guy you saw who were breaking backboards. I mean, he was famous for that, right? So he was just a powerful guy, but he had no actual basketball savvy, not at a professional level. And I think because, look, you can, some people, have a natural facility for things. Like obviously Moses had a natural facility for basketball because he was able to come into the league and immediately become an all-star caliber player. But Dawkins never really clicked for him. And it was only after they traded him to the Nets and brought in Moses where they were finally able to beat the Lakers in '83.
All right, and shout out to Camplo in the chat. How you doing, my brother? Now our next up is Patrick Ewing. Okay, so I just brought up the second tier list right now.
Okay.
Because I don't think Patrick really deserves much of the discussion on the. Well, I mean, I'll let you concede because those at the bottom of the list.
I would rate Patrick Ewing over Anthony Davis.
Okay, well, I mean that's second tier. Anybody on the first tier so far? Well, holding on to the first tier so far. Because we got Bob Cousy.
I can't really see him replacing any of the folks. I'm iffy about Bob Cousy, as I said earlier. But no, I don't. I would put him ahead of Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I don't think much of Anthony Davis. I think he's kind of like I said before. The sum of the parts is greater than the whole. I mean, what would we think about Anthony Davis had he not come to LA and get that bubble ring? What would we think about Anthony Davis?
I mean, I thought Anthony Davis was great even when he was with the Pelicans. I will say that.
He was great, and they were consistently a losing team. His record. Look up his record. Look up his win-loss record in New Orleans. Yeah, it's atrocious.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So I mean, honestly, I'm not putting Anthony Davis over Clyde Drexler. Honestly.
Well, you know what though? I'm gonna say this: Anthony Davis.
I'm not putting Anthony Davis. Fuck no, I'm not putting Anthony. Dave Collins was the best player on the team that won 2 championships. I'm not putting Anthony Davis over Dave Collins.
What?
Collins? Fuck no.
Anthony Davis has those 4 All NBA selections, 2 All Defensive Player selections, and he's an 8-time All Star. You know what I'm saying? Which because I didn't
on a team that couldn't either make the playoffs or couldn't get out of the first round. And Dave Collins was the MVP on the team that won 2 championships.
Okay.
I mean, brother, it's just not even. I get you reading these the little PR stats that they reporting there, but this shit ain't even. Dave Collins beat Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in a championship.
But you know what? That's why folks like yourself and even
in a game 7. Championship.
All right. Now I actually like Patrick Ewing myself, so I'm really not against him.
No way I'm rating AD over Patrick Ewing. That shit ain't happening.
Okay. Well, I'll defer to you, and we can go ahead.
No way. No way. There's a lot of empty calories with AD, in my opinion. A lot of empty calories. You know what? To me, AD and Giannis are interesting in that Giannis is what AD should be. AD should fucking own this league. In fact, actually, AD should be better than Giannis because he can shoot.
Yeah,
AD should be the best player in this league. He really should be.
Yeah, he spent so much time as a point guard because he had.
But he can't stay healthy. He kind of soft mentally, and he's probably soft mentally because his body, his stamina ain't there. But nah, bro. No, I'm not putting him. Look, could he do some things maybe Ewing couldn't do? Probably.
No, he can't because he had some growth spurts, and he was a point guard for most of his time playing before he made it into the NBA. But his growth spurt changed his position.
Yeah, no, what's the difference between AD and Karl Anthony Towns, other than the fact that one of them went to go play with LeBron James? What's the difference? I'm serious. What's the difference? I see no difference. And nobody's going to put Karl Anthony Towns in any sort of all-time great list at this point. And if you look at the records of Minnesota and New Orleans, they're very similar. With AD in New Orleans and Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota. Whole lot of statistics, ain't too many wins.
And it is my belief, and I tell people this all the time. When you're talking about professional players, you have to win to beat somebody. Okay, professionals are paid to win. They're not just paid to be on the team. I know people are like, well, you get paid because you're on the team, but no, they bring you in to win. So
Let me tell you, AD is the most historically lucky player ever. Because I just, all these other guys on this list, these guys, in my view, they're authentic stars, historically great players. There's no other guy on this list where I look at him and say it's suspect as to what he achieved and what he earned and whatever, except for Anthony Davis.
Well, with Davis, you make it clear that you don't even know why he made the list.
He has no business on this list. And by the way, there are a few other people on this 75, and we'll get to them as well. In fact, I think we should put an asterisk next. Some of them people need to be taken off of that 75. Who achieved more in their career, Anthony Davis or Dwight Howard?
That's a good question.
Dwight Howard won 3 consecutive all-defensive NBAs?
Yeah, he
I'm
did.
sure. I think he got at least 10 or 11 all NBAs, 1, 2, or 3. He took a team that had no business going to a championship, and only lost to Kobe after he beat the Big Six Celtics and LeBron James in the East. And you got AD rated over Dwight Howard. AD made the top 75 list, and Dwight Howard didn't. That's some bullshit. Some bullshit.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about the list. I don't think Howard.
No, Dwight Howard ain't on the list. He ain't on the list. Dwight Howard is a greater historical basketball player than Anthony Davis.
Well, and this is the time where I say this is the NBA's official list. I had nothing.
Yeah, and that's some politic and bullshit. He got with LeBron James, and there you go. And there's a bubble ring. It's not, Well,
Above ring
it
ain't the
ain't
same as other rings.
the same. It ain't the same. It's a whole, they took 4 months off, all that bullshit. That ain't, look, it counts, but it don't count,
I get. They say the
I
same
mean,
thing.
it counts in the records, but man, basketball purists gonna always look side eye at 2020.
No, I get you. I mean, it's the same thing to say sometime about '99. But then Tim Duncan won in '99. I don't know who else was supposed to win in '99 unless Jordan had returned. I don't know who was supposed to win.
Well,
But that's the thing.
but even if you say that's suspect, okay, let's say that's suspect. He won 4 more though. See, that's the difference. It's more difficult to say the first is suspect when I win 4 after that. That's the difference. Now, if AD win 3 more championships or whatever, and he's definitively the best player on that squad, then I got a different impression of him. But I'm saying right now, up to this point, AD don't deserve to be on those top 75 lists. No way.
And it doesn't look like his career is going in that direction, as far as we can tell right now.
If he's in the league 3 years from now, I'll be shocked. He don't have NBA stamina. He has all-time great NBA talent. He does not have NBA stamina.
Well,
He can't.
I think
And you mentioned a growth spurt. I think, this is just my opinion, of course, I'm not a doctor or whatever, but I think because of the weird way his body grew, I think his joints and his ligaments are off. See, when we grow normally, we're all kind of growing together at a particular pace. All parts of our body are kind of growing together. Sometimes, maybe our head grows before the rest of us, or nose, or whatever, that kind of thing. And the head's usually got to be kind of bigger because it's got your brain in there. So you need that to be kind of advanced, a little more advanced than the rest of your body. But typically you grow all together at a uniform pace. I think his body did not develop at a uniform pace. And I think his ligaments and his joints are mismatched to his size. I think he still maybe got the ligaments and joints of a guy who's 6'3" or 6'4". And because they're not, I believe, they're not equipped for his bigger body, his bigger frame, it's difficult for him to hold up. Because, you may have ligaments designed to hold 180, 90 pounds, and you're 240 pounds.
That's an interesting thought.
I mean, because he's so brittle. He's unusually brittle. You know what I mean? I mean, there are people who, have injuries or whatever, but every time AD falls, it's a 50-50 chance that he's not going to get back up without being in pain. and now it's like getting worse. I mean, it's like almost every couple of weeks or a month, he is down.
Well, you know what, and that does make a difference, because you got to have stamina to win. You're not gonna have the best career if you can't actually stay on the floor. So that does make a difference. But like I say, when as history goes, all these factors are kind of lost. Even though I do believe this will be the most solid list ever, but there are a lot of factors lost throughout history. Now, I'm actually kind of curious how you gonna go with this one, because this is the Walt Frazier, which I've heard so much about. He was a 4-time All NBA player, a 7-time All Defensive Team player, 7-time All Star as well. Averaged 18.9 a game with 5.9 rebounds, 6.1 assists, 1.9 steals, 0.2 blocks. But I've heard so much about the great Walt Frazier.
Well, Walt definitely is above the bottom list.
Okay, that's second.
He's above all those guys.
All right.
I would say he is. See, I would put him, and again, I'm not saying I would change that you should change your list, but I would have Curry, then Walt, then Cousy. So if I gotta, but since we're not changing, I put Walt after Curry.
Okay, so we're gonna knock Curry down to a second tier athlete so far.
No, I'm saying I say after Curry.
You put Walt Frazier after Curry?
Yeah, I will put him after Curry.
Okay, so Curry holding on
But
for
like I say, I would also have Bob Cousy after Walt, but that's another subject.
well, you know what? It pays to be present. That's all I can say.
I know. I mean, like I say, I'm not trying to change it, but I'm just giving my post, play, post
You must be one
opinion.
quarterback.
Yeah, after the fact.
All right, so the second tier list right now, we got Walt Frazier in there, right over Patrick Ewing, Anthony Davis. Now, and it does look a little funny to me with Anthony Davis accomplishing what he does, but when I look at Patrick Ewing, somebody who's I was able to really watch their career, and it's hard for me to see Anthony Davis is a better player than Patrick Ewing. And if I was going to start a team, yeah, I'm not taking Anthony Davis over Patrick. Even though I do actually like Anthony Davis. I like him a whole lot. But I ain't gonna take
Patrick Ewing was a warrior, and Patrick Ewing, I think, and again, it's kind of like with Bird. Patrick Ewing knees were shot pretty much before he entered the NBA. And it's a damn shame because I think had Ewing knees not been shot, he would have been at or near the equal of Hakeem Olajuwon. In fact, when they were in college, Ewing may have been a tick better than Hakeem. But Ewing came into the league with bad knees, and it just changed because Ewing was expected to be the second version of Bill Russell defensively. He was expected to come in the league and from a defensive standpoint obliterate the league because he was a defensive demon in college. And that was the expectation, but he blew out his knees. Now he still could play on them, but the bounce, the spring, the lateral movement, he just couldn't do that.
Well, I will say this: as great as I believe Patrick Ewing was, and that was his bad knees, I wouldn't want to face him with good knees. I would.
Yeah. Oh no! Patrick Ewing with good knees. Oh man.
Yeah.
So no, I mean but even though he never had, like I said, good knees, he played 15, 16 years. He was a warrior. He was able to develop enough of a shot and enough of a game, even in spite of his knees not being good. He was able to develop enough of a game to
have a Hall of Fame career
to become a Hall of Fame, even in spite of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
People would you got like a lot of people, you got Jordan Duncan on them and Scotty Duncan on Ewing and those sort of like famous shots. I'm not sure those events occurred if Patrick Ewing had good knees. Honestly.
Okay.
I saw that 82 championship live that had Ewing, that had Sleepy Floyd, Michael Jordan, Sam Perkins, James Worthy. Ewing was clearly the best player on that court that night. Clearly. In fact, at the beginning of the game, North Carolina almost couldn't score. Ewing was so dominant defensively that they couldn't score inside. I mean, he was an incredible defensive player, just remarkable. And and John Thompson, they played that bull, that defense at Georgetown. They were famous for that sort of pressing defense. You almost couldn't score on them.
Well, I mean, Ewing was a heck of a player, so it's hard for me to to think how good he would be if he had good knees. And to me, he still was a top. I did actually while they were playing, I did say Elijah Wan, and I gave it to David Robinson as two, and I put Ewing as the third best center. Even though to me that was close in itself. You know what I'm saying? Elijah Wan was great, but I didn't think he was superbly better than David Robinson and Patrick Ewing. I mean, Shaq eventually got in there, but when Shaq was still young, he wasn't messing with those three guys. But I guess when you only see so much, so and thinking about all the hard battles the Bulls had with them with the Knicks, and that's Patrick with the bad knees. I ain't got nothing against him, but hey, I'm cool.
Yeah, I mean, if Jordan had good knees, I'm not sure that the Bulls win all those playoff. I do a lot of ifs, and I know, there's no way to know what actually would have happened. But I like to talk about things in the context in which they occur. People throw out stats, and to me, stats are only important with respect to, were you winning with those stats? What effect did those stats have on you winning, on your other teammates? People say, well, whether you make other players better. There are a number of different ways you could make players better, and it's not just necessarily through a particular statistic. Sometimes it's when you do things that's more important than how many times you do things. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, the intangibles do matter. I do say the intangibles, but to me that's all involved in what I say the eye test is, because when you see it's a little bit different, and players do have intangibles that stats just don't keep track of.
And that's where the difficulty is in comparing people over time, because obviously, unless you're 90 years old and have all your faculties at 90 years old, and have seen basketball over the last 75 years, you cannot possibly know everything all in this full context.
What's the chances of a person still being alive with their faculties and they actually start watching the NBA from the beginning?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you probably couldn't have been able to actually watch much of it in the first probably 10 years or 15 years or whatever, because they probably weren't airing. I mean, maybe you can listen to it on the radio, I don't know, but you probably didn't even really get to see much of it on television for the early part of the sport. So that's difficult to do. But so that's why you'll hear me say, well, okay, I don't know, I didn't see them, but who was he going against? And that's why I pushed back on the Elgin Baylor thing, because you can say he never won a championship, but I'm going to say he was going against Bill Russell. So, and to me, Bill Russell is a foundational player, is a Rushmore player. So again, it's like, what's a better loss? Is it against Robert Corey or riding with my daughter here? Taking her to the DMV, so you may hear her in the background.
It's all right. It's all right. But you definitely should have been at the episode.
Talking sports with my friend Roger on the thing here.
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah. I mean, I have to consider the Can you turn it down a little bit?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I have to consider not if they lost. I have to also consider who they lost against. Who was their competition? And when you're going against Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, I have to take that in consideration.
No, I mean, that's a legitimate point. That is a legitimate point. And I try not to hold losses against people too much.
Like people will say, well, Barkley never won a championship, and Ewing never won a championship, and Drexler and Malone never won a championship. Who they lose championships to?
Yeah, it
They
was a
lost
hard time to
championships to
win.
the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
They
That, that,
lost championships to the Muhammad Ali of basketball.
well, no, I mean, I definitely agree. And if you look at they whole careers, you have a bunch of notable names who was winning. You know what I'm saying? Even their rookie year, you had the Birds and the Magics, and it was just a hard time to win. There was a lot of great players who blessed the NBA at the same time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it's hard to come out with a victory in those situations. So now I got the great Kevin Garnett up, who only has one ring. One of my favorite players, because he actually came to Chicago for a year before he made it. He crossed over into the NBA. Only one ring, but he does have an.
I actually saw him play basketball at Farragut.
Oh, okay.
I have family at Farragut High School, West Side. I have family. Well, Farragut, I guess.
Oh yeah, I know.
I have family went to high school at Farragut during that time.
Yeah. Well, I know Farragut because of Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because of
Him and Ronnie Fields. Damn shame what happened to Ronnie Fields. He was in a car crash. He was a phenomenal athlete. And him and Kevin Garnett together was like, Batman, and I wouldn't even say Robin. I would say maybe Nightwing or whatever,
Yeah.
It was just incredible. He had that crash, and it just kind of,
could never get
messed
back
up his whole future.
Yeah. Now I mean, shout out to Ronnie Fields. I do believe had he made it into the NBA and developed a shot, which I'm pretty sure
he would have had to learn to shoot. Yeah, because he was just a super. I mean, just superhuman athlete. I mean, this guy could literally jump out of the gym, right? But yeah, he would have had to develop a shot.
And to me, the fact that I kept hearing consistently that he was actually better than Kevin Garnett, which is hard to say when the.
Well, I mean, you could say he was better, but he was only 6'3". So the problem is Kevin Garnett was what, 7 foot, right? So you could be more skilled, but just not be as effective because you just don't have as much wherewithal to work with.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kevin Garnett did get a lot accomplished. Okay, he did get a lot accomplished, and to be a 9-time All Defensive Player, 15 All-Star appearances, we got 4 All NBA appearances, and a Defensive Player of the Year. So when you look,
he got an MVP too, didn't he? I thought he got an MVP in 90, not 90.
He has an MVP. He does have an MVP. Yeah, he has one. So he was one of my favorite players. So especially because we about the same age. I
guess you all are about the same age.
Yeah, he might have me by a year. You know what I'm saying? But we about the same age, and so I was very in tune with Kevin Garnett since he came over to Chicago and played for Farragut High School, and he immediately went into the NBA, which started a string of players jumping from high school into the NBA partly because of how well Kevin Garnett was doing. So shout out to that brother. Now,
in terms of his ranking, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, you got Walt Frazier heading up the second tier, folk. But you got Steph Curry right below. Now, Curry is a little bit more accomplished than Kevin Garnett. But when I look at these names, I'm taking Kevin Garnett. I would say I would take him over Charles Barkley. Easy.
I mean, yeah, you could do that.
Now,
you could do that.
Would you take him over Rick Barry? Now, Barry, all I have is stats on Barry. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get to see him play, but I know a lot of people say Rick Barry name in a great way. You know what I'm saying? They even mention him when his two sons were playing in the NBA. Now
Yeah, I mean, he had like four sons that played. I think three of them played in the NBA. I think they all played. I think he had four sons. They all played pro ball, and three of them was a Scooter, Brett, and there's one more. Scooter Brett. There's one more. Yeah, they all play, and they're all pretty decent players. None of them superstars, but they all. And Rick Barry was the best white player I saw play next to Larry Bird. So, I don't know. I think I would maybe put KG in between Rick Barry and Charles, maybe.
I mean that's a decent place for him. Well, if you ask me, that's a decent place because when I look at Kevin Garnett, you know what I'm saying. I mean, to me, it just shows that he's over Barkley. I can't legitimately put, and I like Barkley, but I like Kevin Garnett too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more nostalgic towards Barkley because I just think what he was able to do is just so unique and remarkable. But
I'm gonna say that because of the I mean, Barkley is just it's a timing issue, which people have. You come into the league at the wrong time, it's not gonna be easy to get anything done, and I think that's really what Barkley's situation is. I actually appreciate Barkley one time because he was in I don't know if it was a commercial or if I saw it in an interview, but Barkley once said, "Somebody got to be the greatest. It might as well be me." And I use that statement myself a lot. So I think it's fair to give him an edge. Um, so y'all give me a moment. Let me get this changed up. So we gonna go with Barkley over. Excuse me, we're gonna go with Kevin Garnett over Charles Barkley. Both good great careers, though, of course. Okay. All right. Now, the next person we taking a look at here after Kevin Garnett, the NBA has given it to. Let me see, George Gervin. All right, George Gervin, y'all. For those who do not know, and George Gervin, a lot of great talk about George Gervin as well. Now he didn't win a championship, but he did average 26.2 a game, 6.2 rebounds a game. No, I'm sorry. To average 26.2 points a game, 4.6 rebounds a game, 2.8 assists, 1.2 steals, 0.8 blocks. He was a 5-time All NBA player and made 9 All-Star appearances. He had a pretty good career. Pretty good career. He was known as the Iceman. Now, when I look at George Gervin and I look at this list, I'm thinking George Gervin might have to go second tier. He might have to go second tier because Bob Cousy, who won championships, okay, and I know he was with he was with that great Celtic team. They ran off a few, but Bob Cousy in his own right, I do have to give him credit because he did actually he did win an MVP. He won. He was a 10-time All NBA player with 13 All Star appearances. So yeah, he was on a very stacked squad with the Celtics. And when I was looking up some things for those who do not know, years ago in the NBA, when you won the championship or the better your team did, you used to actually get first pick in the draft. So
I would put George Gerving at last. I'd put him after Ray Allen.
Last. Woo!
Yeah. I don't really. I thought George Gervin was overrated. He did a lot of scoring, but it just never really happened when it counted. You know, I mean, where did he go?
Well, you know what? I was actually looking to see if you
I mean, he was a very exciting player to watch. He was very stylish, but I never really thought at all that George Gerving was one of the top 10 players anytime that I saw him play. Never thought that.
well, he had a reputation, and they say he was super smooth, but
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people liked his style of play. Like I said, he was a very stylish player. But, you know, I just saw him continually getting wiped out by Magic and them, you know, in the West. So I just never really thought much of him as in terms of the effectiveness of his game. The appearance of it was fun to watch. And he, you know, and in general, he had that kind of smooth brother kind of thing, you know, which was, you know, that 70s and, you know, type of thing, which is fine. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I don't know what he actually achieved. Again, and that's why I go back to what I said. Sometimes the sum of the parts are less than the whole. And I think, and sometimes the sum of the parts are greater than the whole. And I think in his case, the parts together were less. The sum of the parts were, excuse me, the sum of the parts were more than the whole. The whole was not that great. He did a lot of fancy stuff and it looked good, but it didn't actually result in, and he had some good players on those Spurs teams. Artis Gilmore was on those teams. Keenan was on those. I mean, he had some good. He could have, if he were a greater player, they should have snuck into, in my view, at least one championship. They should have snuck into one, in my view.
when I actually looked at George Gervin and found out that he had no rings at all, I was actually I was gonna let you kind of see if there was any reason to kind of boost him up a little bit because I mean he got 5 All NBAs and 9 All Star appearances, which is good, and the fact that he averaged 26.2 is pretty good too. But if nothing that you did translated into winning, to me, it's hard to look at you as especially in comparison to other greats. He didn't win anything, you know. And
yeah, I never really thought. I mean, he didn't play any defense, which is fine if you are so effective at what you do well in terms of actually winning. So I don't think every player necessarily has to be a great defensive player. But if you're not, because I don't know, for example, Magic was a great defensive player. Bird wasn't a great defensive player. But the things they did was just so great that they made up for what they didn't do. And although he scored a lot of points, his points were not meaningful in the way in which, Magic's points were or Bird's points were. They probably Bird and I'll bet you there were some years where Bird and Gerving had the same or similar scoring averages, and Bird's points meant so much more than Gerving's points meant. So much more.
His points didn't really control the pace of the game. Then because people
He didn't make other players better. He was a guard. He did a lot of shooting. Like I say, he was fun to watch, but I don't view him as being. He was a Hall of Fame player. Not saying he wasn't a Hall of Fame player. Although I think it's telling that I think it was a while before I think he even was voted in the Hall of Fame, and I think it was in part because he was kind of viewed as being all show and no go, or that type of thing.
And if you didn't get the job done, you didn't get the job done. It's that simple. Because
So I mean, I put him behind Ray Allen. If you want to put him above Ray Allen, I won't necessarily argue, but I don't really have much for
now he don't
George
really
Gervin.
he don't have much of an argument. You know what I'm saying? That I was trying to see if you was gonna put him in. So I just actually put him as he's the beginning of the third tier people.
Okay, damn. I wasn't gonna say that, but okay.
He first and third tier folks. But he first is something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you talk about greatest of all time. We're nitpicking anyway.
I think some of those other people in that second tier gonna belong on that third tier too at some point. But go ahead.
All right. Next up, we got Hal Greer. Now,
Hal Greer. Okay.
He got one ring.
Yeah, he got that one with Wilt.
Yeah, and he averaged 19.2 a game, 5.0 rebounds, 4.0 assists, and he has 10 All-Star appearances. Now, I'm going to say this. When it comes to Hal Greer, he is totally unknown to me. I had not even heard of Hal Greer. Nobody.
I don't. He was before my time too, but he is one of those players that you would hear older players talk about with a certain degree of respect. And he was on, like Billy, he was on that team with Billy Cunningham with Wilt to win Wilt's first championship. So I think he's kind of immortalized for that reason, because he helped Wilt to win his first title. Was that in '67, I believe? So I mean, I would rate him.
You gonna put him over Ray Allen or Carmelo?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I can't really, pick. You can flip a coin.
Well, for me, he didn't do anything. Just plain. I've never. Now, me being a lot younger than you. Well, not a lot younger, but me being younger than you, I've never heard this man mentioned in any discussions about greatness. I just have not heard his name. I did not know his name until I actually started looking at this list. So for me to have never heard of his name before, because I remember when the 50 greatest players came out, but I didn't go look at the list to see who all the 50 was at that time. So I had never heard of this guy before. And looking at what he's accomplished in his career, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand he was one of the greats. To have 10 All-Star appearances is good, but nothing else with it. That don't stand out to me like that. You know what I'm saying? Because the All-Star game is the easiest thing you can do when it comes to achieving something great. So, I guess let me just look at with his 10 All-Star appearances, and I guess I'll just put that against George Gervin. George Gervin did give 9 All-Star appearances, but he got 5 All-NBA selections. I'm gonna have to put him under George Gervin.
But he won a championship.
He did win. Okay, he did win a championship.
Yeah. So to me, that would be the tiebreaker with George Gervin. Like I say, I mean, I you could put him under Ray Allen, between George Gervin and Ray Allen. I guess I'm okay with that.
Okay, well, I'll give him that little nod. You helping him right there. Because I
mean, again, he's before my time. Obviously he's not like a pantheon great, but he did win. He's a Hall of Famer. He did win a title. And like I said, I've heard older players speak of him in a certain reverential kind of way. So, I'll give that the nod,
Okay. Well, I mean, winning is always a good way. If you're going to give a nod, to me, winning should be what gives somebody the nod. Now, we got 2 more left. We got James Harden, who's averaging
that's gonna be
25 a game. Yeah, he kind of sneaky with the way he's done things because he looks sort of good on paper.
Harden's another one of those guys who I don't think belong on that list. So in my view, you can put him at the end, and you can put some dots in between him and because I definitely don't think he belongs on 675. Bro, I have watched professional basketball for like 50 years. You're not going to tell me that James Harden is one of the 75 greatest players of all time. I'm never going to believe that.
Well,
Not ever.
He does have one MVP. He's 6-time All NBA, 10 All-Star appearances.
That MVP is an indictment of modern basketball.
No,
he's at the Nets right now. What is he doing? What is he doing with the Nets right now?
I mean, James Harden, in my opinion, he's developed as a pretty good scorer, but he ain't much of a threat. I don't even if he actually wasn't on the team with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, I don't see this guy winning anything. I'm just keeping it real. He can score, great, but he ain't gonna do nothing in the NBA. You know, I've already pegged him as a guy who will end this
and he's another guy. He's another guy I'm going to penalize, not just because of his play. Look, he had Chris Paul. They should have won a championship. They should have beat Golden State in what's that? 2018, I think. They were in Houston, Game 7, you know, to get to the finals, and he missed every fucking thing. Everything.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
I mean, he took like about 33 pointers. I think he hit one. You know, so I mean, I don't have no, man, like I say, to me, the fact that James Harden is so-called a star or superstar is an indictment of modern basketball.
So no point in me asking if he should go above Carmelo Anthony, huh?
No, I say I would put him at the end of that list with a couple of dots in between him and the next guy, and an asterisk or notation say he don't, you know, put a footnote and say he don't really belong in this list.
So
that's what I would do.
Even over Hal Greer and George Gervin, you think?
I'm saying he don't belong with any of the men. He don't belong on that list. He does not belong on that list.
All right. Shout out to James Harden. Hey, brother, I got much respect for you, brother.
Well, I mean, I don't, you know, have any disrespect or disregard for him. You know, I mean, I wish him all the best, but you're not going to tell me that James Harden is one of the 75 greatest players of all time. I'm not going to believe that.
Well, I until you start winning championships, you don't matter all that much to me, because again, my thing is they pay you to win when you're a professional athlete. So I'm always look at it from that type of dynamic. And I thought James Harden was cool, you know, but he turned to be like a big scorer and not really doing anything else, at least in my humble opinion about the brother. So I do want to see more from him. And
he's a choke artist. I mean, there have been several times when, you know, in big like playoff games, he chokes like a dog. It's not even, you know, I mean, it's like a pattern with him.
He left the A out of his name. That means he ain't got no A game.
You just left that out. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, like I said, I don't think he belongs on that list. I also don't think AD belonged on that list. But you know.
Well, you definitely should have been here last time, dude.
yeah, I definitely should have been, because both of them would be at the tail end of that list.
All right, well, we got one more to go. John Havlicek. Now, I have heard of John Havlicek many a time, because I know he was running with he obviously ran with Bill Russell.
Yeah.
8 rings. Okay, but he does have an MVP. So I did find that interesting. He has a finals MVP. He's a 4-time All-NBA player, a 5-time All-Defensive player, and a 13-time All-Star. So even though he was with Bill Russell, he was actually out there making some stuff.
Well, and he also won titles after Bill Russell. He was on I think both of those Cowens championships in the 70s after Bill had retired. So no, Hondo was the truth. I rate him very highly. He was Boston's Bird before Bird.
Okay, but okay, that's a heck of a compliment.
Yeah.
All right, so now when I start looking at when I look at second tier players, is he is he a second tier guy when we got Steph Curry leading the second tier people, or do he go first tier? Because
Let's see.
I know the Celtics rings are hard to fit because the league hadn't changed yet, and the best players were still going to the best teams, which I thought was great that the NBA changed that. So I know those are kind of hard to measure because they're not in the modern era.
I would probably put him in between Steph and Walt, maybe.
You don't think he's a first tier guy?
Well, I don't think Bob Cousy's a first tier guy. So, that's part of my problem right there. But so that's kind of throwing me off. That's kind of throwing me off. No, I wouldn't say he's first tier, although, like I said, I think a couple of those other guys will come off of that first tier too. I would probably put him in between Steph and Walt, probably.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll give you the edge because you seen it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. He like I said, he was kind of Bird. Not he was sort of like what like Kobe was to MJ. He was kind of like sort of like the lesser version of Larry Bird. Type of thing. Yeah, he's a fantastic player.
And see, I would argue with you more, but it's hard to argue about people you never actually saw play. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he was definitely the first or second player. He was on those Bill Russell championships. Obviously, those were what they were. But he was also the first or second best player on 2 championships after Bill retired. So he was a great player.
Well, yeah, and that definitely makes a difference if you ask me.
Yeah.
That definitely makes a difference, because.
So that's why I would, Steph's got 3 rings, Walt's got 2 rings. Hondo's got probably 7 rings. But like I say, maybe 2 of them without Bill Russell. So I have to give Havlicek high rating, and like I say, I would rate Havlicek over Cousy for sure. But the order's thrown off because I don't think Cousy belong over Steph or
And I would love to correct that, but as I stated on the first show,
like I say, I'm gonna give my editorial. So I'm not trying to encourage you to change anything, but I am gonna give my editorial.
Hey man, you can say whatever you like. I don't have no problem with it. We all got our opinions and things like that. But when it comes down to it, once the list is there, the list is there. So let me I just messed up the Anthony's name. So boom. So yeah, your first tier is your first tier. Your next tier is next tier. So we actually bumping Ray Allen down to he's now the top of the third tier guys. Which is it ain't bad. If
so each tier has 10 guys, right? That's it, right?
Yeah, I'm doing 10 guys.
So when we do the 4th round, then there'll be 4 tiers, I guess. Okay.
Well, I'm not separating the names based on just the number, but that's about all it holds. So right now we got.
Yeah, it might be, and I don't know how you do that electronically there, but if you since there are it's 75, but if you like staggered it by 10, so it'd be like the top 10, then second 10, third 10 type thing. So it kind of would be consistent with the order in which you're presenting.
Okay.
My accounting shit is coming out here. It would be consistent with the order of the that you're presenting.
Yeah,
Like 10.
I can get that done.
You're presenting them 10 by 10. So,
Yeah,
but
that I can do.
don't
That
let
I
me
can do.
don't let me get too geeky with the number thing.
But that I can do it. And you know what? Maybe that make it a little bit easier for folks to follow. So we got the bottom right now, James Harden, who
Who
some
don't
folks think should
belong
be
on
on the
that
list.
list? But go
And
ahead.
I'm not gonna lie, when I saw his name on the list, I was surprised.
It's a couple of names on that list, man, where it's like, man, oh, so we're really doing the recency bias now, huh? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, the NBA need to let the fans handle certain things that they handle. I just
Yeah, but I don't think the fans were involved. I thought that was exclusively the NBA
well, yeah,
selection.
it was to my understanding. That's why I said the NBA need to let the fans handle certain
Oh,
things.
they should let the fans.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. I mean, that would probably be tough too, because you have a lot of young guys saying that Luka Doncic is the 10th greatest player of all time. So I would be careful about that.
well, I'll read it out, and then we can pretty much close out. So right now
Yeah.
we holding that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar still at the top. We got Tim Duncan following, Kobe Bryant right after that, Wilt Chamberlain, holding on into that in that top 5 spot with your man Larry Bird. Then we got Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Durant, Elgin Baylor, my main man Dr. J Julius Irving, Rick Barry, Kevin Garnett, Charles Barkley, then Bob Cousy, who you have an issue with.
Right, right.
Then we got the great Steph Curry, who's still playing, y'all. For anybody younger, he's still playing, y'all. He got stuff to do. John Havlicek, Walt Frazier, Patrick Ewing, Anthony Davis, who some people believe shouldn't even be on the list. I like Anthony Davis myself, but hey.
And his position kind of throws a lot of shit off, because not only does he not belong on the list, but he's high, so it kind of throws things off. But and like I said, look, I don't have anything against Anthony Davis, but I got to look at I got to look at everything he's done within the context of wins and losses. And if you're going to tell me, well, he's won a championship, I'm going to say that shit's sketchy. LeBron James, all that moving players around, that shit too. And I just think there's got to be some kind of penalty to just like moving motherfuckers around at your convenience, right? Because if those other guys could have just moved people around to their convenience, then you got a whole different kind of result. So I'm just, like I said, I'm sketchy about that whole thing. But go ahead.
Well, I've never been a fan of you have to leave to win. I've never been a fan of that either. So I definitely get where you're coming from. All right. So after Anthony Davis, we got Paul Arisen, Dave the Busher, Nate Archibald, Clyde Drexler, Dave Bing, Dave Cowens, Billy Cunningham, Carmelo Anthony. Now, I was actually not the great. Well, I've always liked Carmelo. I thought he should have been better than LeBron James. He's disappointed me from a whole career standpoint. He's disappointed me.
I think Melo, in some ways, was a victim of circumstance. I think Melo's game is greater than the results of it, or the in terms of wins and losses. I think, and they tried to initially. LeBron tried to get Melo to go with him to Miami. Bosh was his second choice. Okay. So what are we saying about Melo with 2 or 3 championships? And I got to tell you, this is my honest belief. This is my honest belief. I think if Melo is on that Miami team, Melo's the best player on that squad. Or put it this way, he's definitely the best offensive player on that squad. In 2011, for sure. For sure. And if they get Melo instead of Bosh, they win 4 straight championships. I have no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind.
I argued all the time with folks that Melo was actually better than LeBron when they were just coming into the league. And I actually think that Melo probably should have got Rookie of the Year. I do believe that. LeBron
that was some bullshit. That was clearly some bullshit. Even the stats and everything say that Melo was a Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he was, and he got his team into the playoffs.
Well, and here's the other thing that happened to Melo too. Detroit drafted that Melo or Milo or whatever.
Milicic or whatever.
Just some shit. I don't even remember his name. What would have happened had he got on that Detroit team with Chauncey and Rasheed and Ben Wallace in there? Again, you got a whole different history.
Yeah.
For Melo. You got a whole different history.
Absolutely. Okay.
So I kind of have I've watched Melo play. I always thought he had, from an offensive standpoint, just a complete, from an offensive standpoint, just had a complete grown man game. Just classic, basketball. No bullshit. I mean, he's got the bells and whistles, but that post game, he could shoot it. He could just beautiful inside. I always enjoyed seeing Carmelo Anthony play basketball. Just a beautiful, just classic basketball game.
Yeah, I love Melo, but he didn't get done a lot of things I wanted to see him do. As and maybe part of it was my own ego because I wanted him to prove me right that he was better than LeBron, but he didn't do it. He just didn't do it.
And Kobe said that Melo was the toughest player he played against.
And there we go. And that's not a small feat when it comes out of Kobe's.
And Kobe was a defender. He wasn't, some guy who was just out there. So he was actually trying to defend Melo. All
right. And rounding off the list right now was Ray Allen, Hal Greer, George Gervin, and James Harden. And I got a lot of respect for Ray Allen. Hal Greer, again, for me, never heard of him. George Gervin, I remember commercials with George Gervin in it. They talking about how smooth he was and all that. James Harden, I'm just
the finger roll.
Yeah. And James Harden,
which is interesting that he got fame for that, because I always thought that Dr. J to me was the finger roll guy, with them incredible hands he had. Dr. J. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying. I was only James Harden after that, and then James Harden I've never been a fan of James Harden. I'm just gonna keep it real. So there is some bias against Harden because I've actually never been his fan because he's just one of those players who can score. Don't get me wrong, the man can score, but scoring.
Yeah, but most of his scoring is like free throws. Him getting bad, in my view, bad calls, and then he gets to shoot 20 damn free throws. I mean, I don't think that's basketball. Jumping into people, getting a bad foul call, and then shooting free shots. I think he's a gimmicky player. I think he's a gimmicky player.
Well, for me, the thing is, if I get the impression of you as being a professional athlete, especially one of the greats, and you care about yourself more than you care about winning, I feel some type of way about you. And that's how James Harden comes off to me. I don't want to put nothing on him. You know what I'm saying? If you ever hear
had he worked things out, I think had he worked things out with Chris Paul, I think they would have had a real chance to have won a title in Houston. And the fact that he couldn't work things out with Chris Paul, I mean, to me, that's an indictment against that is consistent with what you just described of him. He was more concerned about himself because because he can't hog the ball with Chris Paul. Why would you let him hog the ball? Chris Paul is one of the best point guards ever.
Right. Right. You don't have.
Why would you let him handle the ball and taking a bunch of dumb shots and jumping into people and getting free throws all game? So, but because he was the quote star of the team, and Daryl Morey's boy, handpicked boy, they ran Chris Paul, and everywhere Chris Paul has went since then, the teams have been winning. Every one of them. OKC, and now Phoenix. Everywhere he's gone since, the teams have gotten better. Yeah. So that to me, that's an indictment against James Harden. I think he's a gimmicky player, and I definitely do not think he's one of all time. That's an insult to the league. That's an insult to the guys who played that game to say he's one of the 75 greatest players of all time. You can maybe make an argument for AD. Maybe make an argument for AD. But James Harden, fuck no.
Well, this is why I say again, I didn't come up with the list.
Right. Like I say, when it's all done, we're gonna put some footnotes on. we're gonna put some asterisks and some footnotes on there. So when you release this, when you publish this report, we tell the whole story about what went on there. We're gonna put on there this is a bullshit call. We're gonna put on the report this is a bullshit call by the league because they're trying to curry the favor of the young fans and that type of bullshit. That's what they did.
And don't get me wrong, gentlemen, because I know people see stuff. If any of the NBA players ever see this and hear this,
and here's how you know the 50 list had more integrity than the 75 list. This is how you know, because that 50 list left off a lot of guys who were great players during that period. Dominique wasn't on that 50 list. Was Gervin? I don't think Gervin was on that 50 list. I don't think Alex English was on that 50 list. And they were great players. And they were popular players during their time. So, but this list is a popularity thing. Fucking what's his name? The guy in Portland? Damian Lillard. He is not a 75 greatest player of all time. Fuck no.
Yeah, that don't sound
He
right.
takes a lot of shots. He's a defensive liability, and then when it's time to actually win a game, he'll choke too. He's a choke artist too. He choked against the Warriors in 2019 when KD got hurt. They were supposed to play in that 2019 finals, and he choked like a dog in all 4 of those games against the Warriors.
I like that.
So it's some guys. Let me tell you, it's some guys on that list that ain't got no business on that list, Roger.
Hey, I gotta say that's why it's all subjective at the end of the day. Even though I think we don't have the best list over here, it's all subjective at the end of the day.
I'm telling you now, it's gonna be some guys that's gonna, in my view, gonna go right to the end of that list. You can put them at any order you want to. You can put AD over Harden or Harden over Lillard. I really don't give a shit about them because none of them belong on the list.
Well, I will give him this type of credit. I do look at Damian Lillard when I've seen him play. It do look like he's trying to win. So I will give him that. And
it looks like he's trying to win, but I think he's See, Damian Lillard he represents one of the things that I resent about modern basketball, and that is the 6'4" and under dude who shoots more than everybody else on the court. To me, that's a terrible form. How often do you see a team win a championship, other than maybe Steph Curry, where the number one scorer is under 6'5"? How many times have you seen that in history? Maybe Isaiah, but I don't think Isaiah shot as much. Well, okay, Dumas maybe was a leading scorer, maybe, but even on those teams, it wasn't like Dumas averaged like 30 and everybody else averaged only 15. The scoring was much more evenly spread. Isaiah may have averaged 18, Dumas may have averaged 19 or 20, so it wasn't the same kind of thing. But you never see a team win a championship where it's leading scorer the guy who does all the scoring, the guy who scores 25, and they tried to do it with Allen Iverson. Some people will say maybe they got close, maybe, but I have a problem with See, this is my issue with Damian Lillard. When you have a 6'2" guy doing all the scoring, you create a defensive liability for a team, a fundamental defensive liability of the team, because then that means he can't defend his opposite man. He can't defend no shooting guard in the NBA, not one. So as much as he may score, he's going to give up as many points as he gets.
I hope Portland hearing.
And that's the biggest reason, Roger, why, yeah, you can say he tries to win, but the nature of his game, because of his size, makes it almost impossible for him to really win. When, against a great team. Yeah, he'll beat, decent teams, may even look up and beat a good team, but he ain't going to beat no great team. Not with him being the number one guy. That's not going to happen.
It's not. With him not having any championships under his belt, it's hard to say you're wrong because championships don't come by accident. It's just not in the NBA. You can argue that maybe another sport where it's, like football, where it's one and done. You just have to have a good run. But these 7-game series they have, yeah, that takes a lot out of it. So, there are no accidental champions, which is why, another reason why I give championships so much credence. But again, they're professional athletes, so you're supposed to be winning at this point. You were taught how to play in other leagues.
I hear you, Roger. Maybe it's my phone. I don't. Okay.
Yeah, I was saying you're taught how to play in other leagues, but when you go professional, you're supposed to be a winner at that point. So all that does make a difference to me. But I'm finna get ready to close it out, Black Guru. So you want to make any other final statement?
Yeah. It was very entertaining, talking about this and kind of, just, kind of reliving my view of, what I saw of these great players. It was a lot of fun. It's kind of takes me back to a lot of arguments that I had over the decades with friends, going all the way back to grade school. Dr. J is greater than George McGinnis or whatever, that kind of shit. So it was a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing how the list may change or reorder when you get to the fourth 10 players. So it's good, and hopefully, I hope we can get some other people to come in and give their opinions as well, because I'm sure some people may push back on some of my views. Maybe if like BGS was on here or whatever, somebody who could kind of match up with me in terms of the old man knowledge of things might make for some interesting back and forth as well. So maybe you should do a few promos, I guess, on your Max channel, just to try to maybe make sure other people, because I mean look, I have a tendency to make and I've been scolded by this over the years by other people, especially my wife. You say things as if you speaking the word of God Almighty Himself. So I do have a tendency. I admit I do have a tendency to make sort of bold assertions, and sometimes I think that's actually has I've gotten some negative feedback even in this environment a few times. So.
I'm gonna honestly tell you, in my opinion, that's how you're supposed to talk.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not gonna do anything different from what I do.
That's how you're supposed to talk.
I'm admitting to the problem, but I'm not saying I'm gonna change the problem. I'm not saying I'm gonna fix the problem.
I don't even see that as a problem. If somebody said that to me, I take it as a compliment.
So I do have a tendency to kind of, this is definitely, the way it is and whatever, and a lot, and it may be received by other people that I don't have regard for their differing view, and that really isn't the case. I mean, I'm even though I might, have a sort of emphatic view of things, I'm always open still to being corrected, even in spite of what how boldly I declare my views.
Nothing wrong with that. Somebody said it about me not too long ago, and it was a proud moment for me. So
exactly.
So I don't take it as a negative at all. I'm the person you should be listening to. That's my viewpoint.
yeah. So and like I say, I mean, I think part of it is kind of biological as well. Both of my parents were kind of assertive in their communication, if you will, especially my mother. so it's not even, and my daughters are the same way, especially my younger daughter, the one that you overheard in the background. She is very aggressive, even back at me. She, we have some real, I'm like, girl, you do remember I'm your father, don't you?
Especially in the sports conversation, that's when it's supposed to come out. So I try to make sure I do some advertising. We'll try to get some other folks on because I do think it'd be fun if some of them join. But I want to get this closed out, and I want to say thank you to all the folks watching who saw it live. Thank you to the people who will catch it later on. And I'll try to make sure we do this next week at 11 a.m. Central Time. I'll try to have it ready to go. So it'll be.
You know what, Roger? I wonder if well, I know you do. Of course, not recommending any change to what you do.
Black, can we say it off air? Because I want to.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go on.
Let me go. We'll say it off air. All right. Appreciate all y'all coming. This has been another edition of the Black Dimension. Hope you find your way out.
Yeah.